This is the first ever Hood's Huddle video edition. I'm Jared Hood, at Jared D. Hood on Twitter, as you see.
I'm Joe Flacco, at Joe Flacco.
This is our Super Bowl wrap up. I picked the Ravens and Joe picked the Niners, so looks like I kind of won our little grudge match. We both picked those teams before the season even started, so naturally we went for them in the game.
Turned out to be a lot better game than it started out to be, so.
It really didn't look like it was going to be it looked like it was going to be a blowout. I mean, San Francisco, their first play of the game, you script your first play, and they were out of position. They got a penalty for being in a wrong formation. How do you do that?
It makes no sense. You had 2 weeks to prepare for this. This is the biggest game of your life, and you come out and you mess up on the first play.
The coach scripts this. I mean, that's just I don't understand how you line up in the wrong spot, but it happened, and the rest of their drive was really killed by that. They ended up having to punt it away, and Baltimore went right down on their first drive then with that, and that penalty on third down, the encroachment right before the touchdown, Flacco kind of just threw the ball away. I think he knew it was encroachment on the defense. That's why he didn't really try to make anything. I think he did try to make something happen. I just don't think anything was there for him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you had that, but he threw a perfect pass to Bolden in the and they went up 7-0 there to start it out.
They really came out on fire. They looked like a team that was ready for the heat of the moment.
Yeah, they really did. They Flacco came out kind of right where he left off in the second half of the Patriots game, and then San Francisco ended up going on a 7-minute drive and then did a field goal attempt, missed it, but the guy rolled into the kicker, so Akers got a second chance. That made it 7-3. They took a lot of clock off. They made a lot of yards, but they just couldn't bang it in there. And then that penalty was huge because Akers just outright missed the kick. I mean, it seems like he's been doing that a lot.
He had an up and down year this year. He missed some kicks. I mean, but he was good afterwards. So. That's what matters.
Yeah, I mean, he made that field goal, and it was 7-3, and then the next one, the Pitta touchdown, was based off of Michael James fumble, right? It was
right after the fumble.
Yeah, Michael James fumbled the ball, and then the Ravens kind of just drove right down there with kind of a short field, but they really didn't look like they were. The San Francisco defense did this every single game. They just couldn't stop anybody in the first quarter of all three playoff games they played this year. They were down 14-0 in all three games.
Yeah, they couldn't. They definitely weren't a good first half team in these playoffs, but they came out. They were always coming out strong in the second half. So it was to see what they could do. But I was disappointed with how they started because I expected a lot more. I didn't expect them to start off as slow as they did. On defense.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt going into the Atlanta game. Is that I said I had a hard time seeing Atlanta score 24 points, and they did it in the first half. But I mean, they scored 21 points in that first, or 17 points in the first quarter of that game. I was shocked. I was surprised. I don't know what's going on with San Francisco defense in that situation because that's 3 games now that they didn't look like they were there at all in the first quarter, first half.
They just didn't show up. I don't even think they were in the building, to be honest.
And then, after the Pitta touchdown, Kaepernick throws the ball right to Ed Reed, which was,
That was a bad throw, a terrible throw. I don't know what he was trying to do with that.
It really was. It was one of those things where it was looks like a guy who's starting his 10th game in a situation like that. That really wasn't, it didn't look good. It didn't look good at all for him.
Yeah, everybody saw that and they were like, oh no, this is exactly not the way they wanted to come out. This is not how things were supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to come out like this, and it was terrible. Although, I guess Madden did predict he was going to throw that interception to Ed Reed. I guess they did call that in the simulation that they did. I don't know if you read it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I saw a little highlight clip of it, but I didn't really pay attention. I just kind of saw who they picked the winner. I'm pretty sure they picked the Ravens, right?
They did. They picked the Ravens by 3 points, and it was actually the stat line was actually eerily close to what the Madden simulation said it was going to be.
Yeah. And then, but after the interception, you're up 14-3, okay? Because like I said, the Niners ended up getting that field goal in the first quarter, but you're up 14-3. You are lining up for a field goal. They went for it. I mean, they went for the fake field goal. He was 1 yard away from getting the first down. He was a block away. He was a block away from maybe getting a touchdown. I mean, that was, up 14-3. I don't do it. That's not me. That's not my call.
Especially when you get the ball at half. Why risk it? Take the points. I mean, you're up against a team that's been great in the second half. A defense that's been great in the second half of games. Why take the chance? I mean, if it works, everybody's calling him a genius, but it didn't.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, that's exactly my thought. I couldn't agree with you more. I really thought going into the halftime up 17-3, getting the ball. I mean, you're not going up 17-3, but you're taking a 17-3 lead with 4 minutes to go in the half. I didn't understand it. I really didn't understand the call. And I mean, if it would have worked, like we said, he'd be called a genius, and we'd be raving about it probably. I don't know, but even when it first snapped, I was like, oh, I don't really like that, but. I give him an A for effort because that was gutsy. That was really gutsy.
I don't do it in that situation, but
he had a lot of faith in his defense because it didn't really. I mean, that was 2 turnovers in a row, so I understand kind of where he was coming from. And like we talked about in the last Huddle, the Niners are a second half team. I mean, when their offense comes alive, it doesn't seem like a team could stop them. So he didn't want that to happen. I really think that he was just trying to go for that.
The
jugular, or at least a huge lead, you know what I mean? And he ends up getting a huge lead. A fake field goal missed. But a few drives later, the Ravens get the ball back. And then Joe Flacco has Jacoby Jones 5 yards away from any defender, anybody even near him. He underthrows him. Jacoby Jones comes back, makes a great play. The Niner guy jumps over him, never touched him. He gets up. He outruns another guy to the end zone. I mean,
that
what
was
are you doing?
Sloppy.
Yeah, it was. It was crazy. It's a bad throw by Joe Flacco, honestly, in my eyes. I mean, that was he had him 3-4 yards in front of the defender. He catches that ball in stride. He
was pressured. He was moving up in the pocket. Was throwing it on the run and so I can understand
that he even got it there.
Yeah,
right. But Jacoby Jones, I mean, he made the play. He made the play. I mean, he came back and what a ridiculous catch. Pretty much waltzed into the end zone.
I'd say it was more blown by the 49ers, though, on that one.
Yeah. He's laying on the ground. Just touch him. I mean, and that guy jumped over him. I fall on him or something. They were zoning in on him all day on that cornerback.
Yeah. Culliver was not prepared for this stage, I assume, because he came out and just couldn't do anything right.
He looked like he was really there was something going on. I mean, they went after him over and over and over again. But, so after this crazy play by Jacoby Jones, scores a touchdown, the Niners go right down the field with pretty much ease, but then the Ravens defense kind of bend don't break and holds them to a field goal, and it's 21-6 going into halftime. So come out of halftime, Beyonce had a great performance. It's 21-6. You just had an extra long half, and then Jacoby Jones, great blocking by the Ravens, but he's fast. I mean, he just outran everybody to that end zone.
I don't know what can deflate a team more than a kick return to start the second half of the Super Bowl.
Nothing.
At that point, I thought they were done. I thought the 49ers, stick a fork in them, they're done.
Body language looked horrible.
Yeah. And then
everything just... Yeah, well, and then, so the Ravens defense actually coming off of that had 2 really fast plays. I mean, they were out there hitting, and then lights go out on a 3rd and 13, and for 37 minutes, the Ravens look like they're just trying to keep their energy and loosen up, where it looked like the Niners were just kind of sitting around. They didn't literally look like they were loosening up on the sidelines. They didn't show any Niner, throwing the ball or anything. Kaepernick was throwing the ball there at the end, but they really didn't seem like they were trying to stay loose. They were kind of, they looked like they weren't out of it, but they kind of looked like they were well, we're getting pounded here, and it's our time. And I guess for the NFL, it's the best thing that could ever happen, because in the next 4 minutes, they get 3 scores, 2 touchdowns, and a field goal, making an 8-point game.
Ridiculous.
I mean, that was just, that Crabtree 31-yard touchdown from Kaepernick, thrown on a rope, perfect throw. I mean, Crabtree really, he kind of came out after those lights came out. Everybody on the Niners came out big after the lights came out. I mean, Kaepernick looked like a brand new quarterback. It looked like that might even settle him down. I hate to say that, because what was he doing at halftime? But at the same time, it kind of looked like he kind of got his rhythm after the lights went out and came back on.
Yeah, I mean, and the 49ers have been through that before. That happened in Candlestick last year. So, I mean, maybe they had some kind of, all right, well, I mean, this has happened before, so, like, just chill, wait, like, see what happens. I don't know how much of an edge the blackout gave to either side, but at the same time.
Honestly, I think it had a lot to do with both sides because I look at the Ravens and I think they just lost their energy. I mean, they were playing with hype. They were just, there's nothing of a higher level that you can play except when you just kick return a touchdown, you're up 28-6 and you just stop them 3 and out. I mean, if those lights don't go out, do the Ravens lose that edge? Do the Ravens lose that energy? Because I'm not saying they fell back, played conservative and said, oh, this is our Super Bowl. But at the same time, how do you play with the same edge you just played with?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it might have had something to do with it, and if the game would have ended differently than it did, maybe some people are a little angry about it, but...
Yeah. I definitely know if I was a Ravens fan and that game would have ended up, I'd definitely be saying some conspiracy theory. There's not a question.
Yeah.
I mean, it was unique, it was interesting, but, like I said, the Kaepernick throw to Crabtree for 31 yards on a rope looked perfect. He came out just, Kaepernick was on fire. Gore had the 6-yard touchdown run. Then we get the Akers field goal. It's 28-20. Now it's like, all right, Flacco, you played a great first half, one of the best first halves, honestly, I think I can remember in the Super Bowl. I mean, he really came out there and lit it up. Your time to shine. Moves the team right down the field, ends up getting a field goal. And you got a 31-20 ball game. But next drive, the Niners get the ball. Kaepernick drives them the whole way down, and then longest touchdown run by a quarterback in Super Bowl history for 15 yards. Kaepernick to the end zone on a scramble.
Very fitting for Kaepernick to get that record.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looked like he hit a new speed when he turned out of there. I mean, that was impressive. It was a very impressive drive. That was an impressive play. And the Ravens just kind of, their defense looked a little confused through that whole situation. And then, it ends up getting the field goal, makes it 34-28.
Yeah.
And, you're really, that was just, the Niners, once they got that first touchdown after the lights came out, they didn't look like they could be stopped. Like every other time, even when they don't score, they move the ball the whole way down. And what happens, only fitting for Ray Lewis, his defense in his last game, it's a goal line. It's a goal line situation. They're at the 5-yard line, first and goal, and the next 4 plays, man, they were intense, crazy plays.
Perfect ending for Ray Lewis, and that's how it should have happened, and that's how it happened, and it was just the perfect ending to Ray Lewis. Great
fourth
career.
Down play, Crabtree running right through the defender. Do you think that they should have thrown a flag on 4th down?
It's a close call, honestly. I think there's contact going both ways on that one. Honestly, I think there should have been a flag on the other side of the field when there was a lot more holding over there. Could have been a flag there, but they didn't call it. So, I mean, at that point, you gotta let them play, and I mean, there was contact on both sides. So,
I'd be mad if I was a Niners fan, but as an unbiased opinion, I really didn't. I mean, I wouldn't have been too mad if they'd thrown a flag in that situation. I'm not like, oh man, you're going to decide a Super Bowl like that, because honestly, he wrapped him up, but at the same time, it looked like Crabtree might have initiated it, run right through him, and he was just holding his ground from what I see in the slow motion. I'm not trained to look for that. It sounds like the ref was, because, he didn't throw the flag.
Yeah, he didn't, and I mean, that's how it happens, so.
And then, instead of punting the ball and giving them a chance from like the 50, John Harbaugh calls, in my eyes, one of the most genius plays in Super Bowl history for my lifetime. He makes his punter take a safety. It looked like the Niners weren't even expecting it. Both announcers were talking about it. I mean, Phil Simms said, what about just taking a safety? Well, you got to think, if he's just going to take a safety, he's going to try to run as much time off the clock. And the Niners looked a little surprised by it, and then they tried to start moving a little quick.
Yeah, I mean, by that time it was too late.
11 seconds, they were on like the 4. So all you had to go was 4 yards and then to the back of the end zone. The punter has no room. I mean, he ran right to the corner and just stood there and waited for someone to come push him out. That was.
Why wouldn't they be going for an all-out block in that situation? Because if they block the punt, and if they would somehow get it in the end zone and score a touchdown, I mean, that changes everything for them. I mean, why wouldn't you be sending the house at that point?
I know.
Put that guy back there, he calls a fair catch. I mean, you have a chance anyways.
Yeah, what's the worst that happens? You get the ball at the 45, 50, maybe even your own 45, probably at worst. He's not punting that ball too deep because he didn't have a lot of room to get a good punt off as it was. So I don't know, that was questionable. That was really questionable. But, maybe they had a game plan, maybe they had a thought. On the safety punt, though, from when they get to punt it from the 25 to the Niners, are you calling fair catch? Are you putting Kaepernick, Vernon Davis, Crabtree, Gore, Moss, everybody? Are you putting your weapons on the field? Or are you telling your returner, go for it, try to take it to the house for me?
I mean, it depends. If he sees something and he thinks he can make it happen, I mean, we've seen big plays before, and I mean, they have a pretty lethal Ted Ginn back there to return
Absolutely.
stuff. So, I mean, It's not like he can't do it. And I mean,
the Ravens stack the next 50 yards as it is anyways. Even if he calls a fair catch, it's not like the Ravens probably only rush 2 and then have everybody else jump back and make sure they don't score a touchdown.
Right.
But
right.
I think when I have, Kaepernick and Gore and Crabtree and Vernon Davis and Moss and Ginn, I think I'd tell my returner, fair catch it, and we're going to go out there and try to win this with our offense.
I mean, that's what I would have done if I would have sent the house to try to block the punt. I would have been like, just fair catch it, don't risk it, because if they don't block it, then you're not going to have any blocks down there. Then you have the weapons to try to make that last play, Hail Mary. But
well, I mean, ended up that was the last play of the Super Bowl. That was a fantastic Super Bowl. Once the lights came back on, we had a whole new ball game. Congratulations to the Ravens and Ray Lewis.
Yeah.
I'm, like I said on the previous shows, I'm a huge Ray Lewis fan, so I'm very happy to see him get his second ring. And the Niners, they came out, they really did their thing in the second half, like they've been doing all postseason. So, how do you think Kaepernick played in this game? I mean, I've been seeing a lot of different thoughts on him, but what do you think he did good? What do you think he did bad? I mean, how do you just overall think he did in this game?
I mean, he started off a little shaky. I mean, I can't say that surprises me because he is a young quarterback. It is only his 10th start. It is on the biggest stage in all of football. I expected a little more from him, but overall, he didn't have a bad game other than that really bad thrown interception he had. He had a solid game, a solid outing. He gave his team a chance to win by the end, so can't put too much on him, I don't think.
I really think that to me, he looked like some plays it was his 10th start, and some plays he looked like the Kaepernick that we've been talking about, where he looks like he's light years ahead of a lot of other players that are in his position. I was impressed in a lot of places, and there was a lot of places where they need to work on. I think his clock management and his timing, it's 10th start, so you can't really go after him on it, because it's something they'll definitely work on the offseason. It was his first. I mean, that was a big situation. That was a big setting. Came out, looked a little shaky, but I think overall, especially when he got his groove there in the second half, he looked like something to be reckoned with for years.
Yeah. He's got a lot of good things going for him, and he's going to be good down the road, I think.
And how about Flacco? I mean, Flacco got the MVP. You can make a case for Jacoby Jones. Honestly, now that I look back and think about it and break it all down, I think I give it to Jacoby Jones. Flacco played well. He played a great first half, but Jacoby Jones, I mean, he came back and made that play for that touchdown, and then, the kick return obviously set them off, put them a little bit over the edge. Really, to me, I think those were the two biggest plays in the game.
It's close. I mean, he definitely has an argument, but Joe Flacco also has been outstanding throughout all these playoffs. No turnovers at all.
11 touchdowns, no turnovers.
Yeah,
tied Joe Montana for a single postseason record.
Yeah, and anytime you're talking Joe Montana, that's pretty good. So I can't argue with giving it to Flacco. I mean, Jacoby Jones definitely had his own argument, but I don't think he cared. I mean, they won, so I don't think it mattered to them as much. Right. Joe Flacco didn't even know it was going to happen. He said the most shocking thing he got was a car. He didn't know that was going to happen. So, I mean...
Yeah, I mean...
I don't know. I give it to Flacco. He held that team through. He played fantastic throughout the whole playoffs. Without him, they're not there. So,
like I said, that was one of the best first halves I've seen a quarterback play in the first half of any Super Bowl that I've been able to witness. So, I give it to him. I mean, he definitely he worked for it. He deserved it, and he played well enough to earn it. I was just, like I said, I just think Jacoby Jones had a case. But either way, they were both big reasons of why the Ravens won the Super Bowl. How about Ray Lewis? Only 4 tackles, but he sets postseason record for most tackles in a single postseason. He's playing like it's his 13th day, not his 13th year, to quote some stuff I seen on TV. But, I mean, that was unbelievable. And I really think that even though he didn't have the biggest impact on the game, he was still flying around. They really zoned in on him to try to block him and take him out of the game. I don't think that, and I think that the rest of the team stepped up in a big way. But, I mean, when he got a chance to hit, he was hitting. I mean,
he was.
Storybook ending for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought he played pretty well. I mean, they did their best to make sure he was a non-factor, but it's Ray Lewis, so, I mean, obviously.
He still made his a little bit of a dent, and he still, you saw him out there flying around causing a little bit of noise.
Yeah. I thought he did well.
With the big INT, too. I mean, that was, set a postseason record now for most interceptions in the history of postseason. That's, congratulations to him. And
one of the greatest safeties to play the game, so,
Absolutely. I hope he comes back. I hope he comes back to the NFL, and no matter where he ends up in Baltimore in a different uniform, I hope to see him play next year.
Yeah, he's definitely an exciting player, so we'll see what happens with that.
But, I mean, that was a really fun Super Bowl. Where now in the future do you see these teams going? I mean, you got let's start off with the Niners, the team that lost. Where do you think that this leads for them? How do you what plays out?
Honestly, I think they have a bright future. I mean, they have so many pieces. They have some good young talent. They have some veteran players too. Their defense is stout. They have some great linebackers. I mean, they're definitely going to be around for a few years, and they have a great coach. So I don't see them going away anytime soon. But, the Super Bowl is hard to get back to, so you can't just say they're going to be there next year because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we're both Philadelphia fans, so we know it's pretty difficult to get to that Super Bowl. But, 2 years in a row they go to the NFC Championship. They win it in their second year. Harbaugh's first 2 years as a coach in the NFL. That's impressive. And with how well Kaepernick played, how much that offense clicked, I think, like you said, they have a bright future. They're my favorites for right now, for next year, because to me, they just...
No team can, no team can match up with them.
Right, and they have their bumps. They have their little blips losing to Seattle. Seattle's going to be a tough team. They're in a tough division, obviously, if those two go at it. You never know what's going to happen with Alex Smith. There's a lot going on. I mean, I'm not counting them out. The Rams are how far, they're pretty close to, they seem like they're a step or two away from being an elite team. They got a good quarterback. If they can put the right pieces around the rest of that team, they're going to be right there. So it's a tough division. They're going to have to go through a lot of bumps on the roads, but they did it this year. And, they played outstanding in the playoffs. They went to Atlanta, and, like I said, once that offense comes on, it didn't seem like there was anybody stopping them this year. They're definitely my before the offseason favorites for the Super Bowl next year.
I agree.
What direction do you see the Ravens heading?
Unfortunately, I think the Ravens are going to have some kind of decline. They have a great offense. They have a lot of people that they need to re-sign on defense. No more Ray Lewis. That's the heart of that team. So it's going to be rough for them. I don't see them coming back to the Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to go away by any means, but I definitely think they have some work to do to get back.
Yeah. It's hard for me to say this, but I got lucky with the playoffs by picking the Ravens before the season because going into the playoffs before Ray Lewis announced his retirement, I don't think I was going to pick the Ravens to make it too far in the playoffs. I mean, they weren't clicking, and I know they made the offensive lineman adjustment to, solidify that offensive line again, but I really to me, there was something about them not playing too well late in the season. They had a really good game against the Giants, but we all know how the Giants turned out. So, how justifiable was that game? Overall, I really just didn't see them doing too much going into the playoffs. And then, Ray Lewis announced his retirement, and I rode that wave the whole way to the end. But I just, with him retiring, like you said, I have a hard time seeing them really making the transition to go back. There's going to be a lot of pressure on them. Like you said, there's a bunch of free agents. They don't know what they're, no one really knows what's going on with Ed Reed yet. And you look at it, they got to figure out what they're doing with Flacco. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. That offense is going to be solid, but if they shore up their defense, they can be right back at it. They had something special going this year, a team of destiny, and usually, the team of destiny doesn't repeat. It's just a team of destiny for that year. So We'll have to see. But speaking of Flacco, what do you do? I mean, his agent said he wants the highest contract in the NFL. I mean, if you're Brady and Manning, you're looking at your agent like, if Flacco gets that contract, you can't tell me we can't go and renegotiate our contract because is he elite? I mean, is he good enough to get that $20 million?
I mean, I don't know if I give him $20 million. You definitely got to pay the man because from what he did this year and in the playoffs was just remarkable. You have to pay him. I'd say maybe like $15 million, somewhere around that number there. I don't know if I go with the most, but what does he do if he doesn't get it? I mean, they have the franchise tag, but who knows what'll happen with that. So
if I'm Flacco's agent, I'm going in there, obviously I'm saying, look what he did in Denver against Manning in overtime. Look at the throws he made to get them to overtime, all this other stuff. He outplayed Brady 2 years in a row in the AFC Championship in Foxborough. But, the Ravens, the only thing they really have to say is, well, look at him during the regular season. He was inconsistent. He was this, he was that. But how do you argue with, his postseason stats? I mean, they had a chance to sign him before the year, and they were like, well, you have a year left on your contract, so we're going to see where it goes. It looks like it backfired, and I'm not blaming them for that because I think any of us would have done the same thing they did with his inconsistencies before. And we can't forget, they had to fire an offensive coordinator to get to the point that they got for him being this. I mean, Jim Caldwell, if they don't fire Cam Cameron, Jim Caldwell doesn't step in, that was, to me, the move that won them the championship.
Absolutely.
And if you're, but if you're Flacco's agent, you want to keep him in that system, keep him with Caldwell. Obviously, he excelled. We'll see. I mean, you look at his postseason numbers, and that's pretty much what you have with him and Caldwell together. You can't argue it, and he wants that money. I don't know if he deserves it personally, $16 million, but at the same time,
he's
going to get the 20. He's going to get the $20 million. No matter where he goes, he's going to get the 20. Exactly. And no matter where he goes, what he does, he's getting the $20 million. If it's not Baltimore, it's somewhere else. And if you're the Ravens, you have to keep him because you look around that league, there's not a lot of people that can step in there and do what he did even over the last 5 years. He's 5 for 5 making the playoffs in his career.
Yep. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Something you have to do.
Yeah.
That's a tough thing to swallow if you're the Ravens front office. But if you're a Ravens fan, man, you gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Absolutely.
But so speaking of other quarterbacks that could, potentially go somewhere, or free agents, this or that, what do you think is going to happen with Mike Vick? Speaking of the Eagles up here.
Honestly, I think they should probably get rid of him. If they cut him, I know the deadline's coming up for if they cut him, they save a lot of money on his contract. They don't have to pay him as much. I know that deadline's really close if it's not like today or tomorrow or something like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think you cut your losses with it because he's injury prone. He's shown that he hasn't changed. He hasn't learned to not take a hit. He continues to keep diving around. He's had so many turnover issues. I mean, you can't justify paying him the amount of money that he is getting. And I know he's not willing to rework his contract. I mean, I wouldn't if I was him because he's getting paid right now.
Because if they cut him, he gets more money anyways.
Yeah, so I think they should release him, but I guess we got to see what happens because Chip Kelly coming in on that Eagles team, who knows what's going to happen because I don't know what direction that's going to go in.
From what we've seen, Chip Kelly needs a fast offense from what we saw in Oregon. So you have a quarterback who is in place right now to be fast. If you're the Eagles, you probably don't want to pay him all that money. He gets $3 million if he gets released. I heard a bunch of different things, Maybe the Eagles release him, give him $3 million, and they just give him a brand new deal that they feel suitable, and he just kind of got to deal with it. But if it's not Philadelphia, where do you think he goes? I mean, obviously Kansas City is a potential route. I'm a big fan of him going to, and I know Washington has a backup, but like an option team, like a Washington, like Carolina, like the Seahawks, if they can figure out what they're going to do with Flynn. Even San Francisco, they're going to probably need a backup next year. We'll get to Alex Smith here in a little bit.
That's true.
If you're Mike Vick,
does he accept the backup role?
But that's what I'm saying. You're looking for a starting job, but can he get a starting job somewhere? I mean, where in the league is going to take, what is he, like 32 years old, 33 years old? Like you just said, all the intangibles. He's turning the ball over a lot lately. He's, taking all these hits. He hasn't been off the injured reserve list since his first year with the Eagles. What happens?
I don't know. I think it's tough. If he's willing to accept a backup role somewhere, I mean, I'd go for it because, like you said, there are a few teams that are going to need a backup quarterback in their option systems, and that would be a good fit for him. He'd still get to play. He might still get to play. I mean, as we've seen, RG3's gotten hurt. Running this option system, guys get hurt. Guys can get hurt. So, I mean, it's good to have a backup like Mike Vick.
It's not like Cam Newton or Russell Wilson, it's not, or even Kaepernick aren't prone to injury. They're all running this offense that potentially they can get hurt. Now, it seems like they're running a lot smarter than what Vick's been running, a scrambling style. He's scrambling in their option, but it still seems like they're, making the better reads, the better ideas, not getting hit, getting out of bounds, not really turning the ball over in that sense. But at the same time, go back to the Eagles. If they get Dennis Dixon, or even if they're going after Geno Smith, whatever their future plan is, do you want Nick Foles as your backup, or are you trying to convince Mike Vick, hey, we got a perfect spot for you right here?
I mean, if they would do something like that, it could work out for him. But again, like the whole contract issue, they need to find something to do with him. I think he might end up being in the Eagles jersey next year. I can't say I'm happy about seeing him in an Eagles jersey next year as an Eagles fan, but we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I mean, as an Eagles fan, I think I go both ways on that because, I appreciate what he did. I've always been a Mike Vick fan, even when he was in Atlanta, except for when he played the Eagles. I kind of always like to see him do well, but overall, it's a hard situation because I don't think he's going to want to personally accept a backup role in Philadelphia if he's coming back to Philadelphia. But then on the other side of Philadelphia's quarterbacking situation, what do you do with Nick Foles? He's not. If you're going after Nick Foles style quarterback, Alex Smith's probably going to be on the market. Do you rather go after Alex Smith?
That's a tough decision. And again, who knows with what Chip Kelly's planning on doing, because he's come in and there hasn't been any news. There hasn't been been much talk.
There's been zero moves.
No talks, no nothing. So I don't know what he plans on doing. They haven't even signed a defense coordinator yet, right?
Yeah. So, I think they were waiting for the. They were talking about the 49ers defensive coordinator. They were going to actually or the secondary coach for the 49ers. They were actually going to try to get him to be the defense coordinator. I think that's why they haven't really done anything with that yet. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But you're right. I mean, they haven't even really made it clear that they're going to make any moves on that anytime soon, more or less what they're going to do with the quarterback.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think Mike Vick will be in an Eagles jersey next year. Maybe Alex Smith could be too. So it'll be interesting.
Speaking of Alex Smith, we threw out the Philadelphia option. What happens to him? I mean, where does he land? Obviously, if you're Alex Smith, you want out of there. Are the Niners going to give him up? I mean, what do you think is going to be his future here in this offseason?
I honestly think the Niners owe it to him to send him somewhere else. I mean, if you're gonna make him lose his job to Colin Kaepernick over injury, playing as well as he did,
completion rating, 70% completion rating, unheard of.
Yeah, you can't. You owe it to him to give him an opportunity somewhere else. I think the Eagles could be a possible fit. I think Arizona could be a pretty good fit for him. Yeah. Maybe even a Kansas City. So.
If you're him, do you want to go to Arizona? I mean, do you want to go play in the same division that you just played in where, like I said, the Seahawks are really good. Obviously, the 49ers
That's tough, but that also gives him a chance to stick it to his old team.
Yeah, you're right.
And I mean, a little revenge, you could have had me. I mean, they didn't win the Super Bowl. You have to think Alex Smith might have been smiling in that confetti somewhere. So
yeah.
So who knows? I mean,
yeah, we'll see.
I think if he could go to Arizona, he's got some weapons out there. Larry Fitzgerald. Yeah. I mean, there's potential there for him. New coach, who knows what will happen.
Yeah. What keeping in that division, we were just talking about how the Seahawks are good. What do they do with Flynn? I mean, that's a huge contract. That's a lot of money that you want to clear out to make your team better because you got a good quarterback, but you look right down the West Coast there, and you got the Niners playing obviously at the highest level you can possibly play at. So you want to make your run as quick as possible because you got the quarterbacks that pretty much, I think Russell Wilson's actually older because he ended up playing baseball for a little bit. So, they're at the same point in their career almost. I mean, Kaepernick's only a few games or like a year and a half ahead or whatever. So what do you do as as the Seahawks with John Flynn?
I mean, they got to find some way to get rid of him. He's just taking up too much money for them. If they're not going to use him, there's no point to have him there. I mean, he's a good pocket passer. There's some moves. I think Seattle will probably trade him at some point. I think that'd probably be their best case scenario. They might be able to get some weapons for him. I mean, they already have a pretty good.
A lot of that money.
Yeah, they might have to eat some of that contract, but they could get some good pieces in return. I mean, they have a good squad.
What team takes a shot on him though? I mean, do you think a team that needs a starting quarterback takes a shot on him, or do you think a team that is looking for a backup takes a shot at him?
I think someone that needs a starting quarterback will take a shot on him because, I mean, from the little bit he has played, I mean, he's proven that he can do it. Granted, that was one game that he had an outrageous game, and it was with the Packers, who have a fantastic offense. So,
yeah, I mean, maybe the best offense, especially last year. It looked like they had a really good offense.
Yeah, so, I mean, if someone's willing to take a risk on him, maybe some team that needs to build, they got to start somewhere. So it could be a good fit for somebody. Who knows? I mean, Andy Reid likes his pocket passers too, so there's maybe.
Yeah. Moving on, what to you are going to be a surprise next year? We're going to do, a team that you are going to be surprised that surprises us and does well, and a team that surprises us and does bad. Let's go with, start off. Who's a team that you think is going to surprise us and do well next year?
I think I'm going to take the Buccaneers as my surprise team for next year to do well. They have a lot of good pieces. Doug Martin, Freeman's a good guy.
They're really close. I mean, that's 2 years in a row. They've shown a lot of signs of life to be really close.
And Greg Schiano seems to have that organization going in kind of a good direction, other than some of his, little things that other coaches kind of tack on with his. I mean,
what? I mean, that's part of it.
Learn,
sometimes you like a mean coach.
Yeah, so I think they have a bright future. They have a lot of good pieces. Vincent Jackson. They have a good offense. I think if Freeman can get it going with that team, they can be dangerous. Their defense isn't terrible. They need a little work, but I think they're going to surprise people next year.
I think Freeman's been right on the edge of from just good to maybe being able to play great. I mean, he's had some great games. He's played good years overall the last 2 years. And I remember when he got the job, a lot of people questioned it, but it turned out, a few years later, he was young. He's still fairly young. He lost a lot of weight over the last offseason. So, he coming into this season he came into this season looking a lot different. He's going to work on his craft a little bit better. I think they're, right one step away, just like you said. I'm sticking in the same division for the team that I think is going to surprise everybody. I got the Panthers. I mean, I really think Luke Kuechly, their first overall pick last year, he had the most tackles in the whole NFL as a rookie. And, Cam Newton stepping up, I really think that he's going to focus a little more on the offseason. He's, if his maturity level can get there, and they're going after, it sounds like they're going to try to make a run for Mike Wallace, which on the other side of Steve Smith. Yeah, I mean, on the other side of Steve Smith, you got Greg Olsen as your tight end. You got a lot of different weapons. You got a bunch of running backs. If you get your offensive line assured, I mean, their offensive line played pretty well all year, but they got to play a lot better, I think, if they're going to make any real potential run at that division, because that's a good division, obviously, with Atlanta in it. And
I agree.
The Saints are coming back. It looks like the Saints are coming back. So you're really, but I really think the Panthers can step it up, and I really think they're going to have a good year next year.
I think they're going to have a pretty good year next year, too. I think they got to focus on the run game a little bit. I think they shied away from it too much this year. They put too much on
Cam Newton, I think.
Yeah, they threw too much on his shoulders. He can't. I mean, he's a great player. He can't do it all himself. You got to give him some kind of support. I mean, when teams know that you're just going to throw the ball, you can't do much. So if they can get that run game going, they can be dangerous.
They were trying to spark their run game this year with Cam Newton runs, and it was kind of like, well, you gotta inform your running backs here. You gotta get them going. If they can fix that, if they can kind of switch that around, they got a new offensive coordinator, so it's going to be interesting to see how he works. And hopefully he gets that memo and sees what they did wrong last year. And hopefully for them, and that whole team's sake, an organization that, because they got a good quarterback at the helm right now that can lead them certain places, but they got to do the rest right because, like I said, his maturity level just wasn't completely there this year. If he gets that together, they can be a scary team.
I agree.
And who do you got surprising us as a bad team next year?
I think my bust team is the Giants. And I mean, they had a rough year this year. They didn't play. They played well for a little bit. They shied away. They weren't very good. But they still have a lot of good pieces. With Eli, I mean, he's a 2-time Super Bowl winner, so you can't count him out. But they have some issues with the contracts. Cruz might not be back. I heard some talks that Eli might, redo his contract a little bit, maybe save some money so that they could maybe bring him back. I heard that they might sign. Yeah. So I think that they are gonna not be as good as people expect them to be next year. So we'll see. What do you think about that?
Their defense was inconsistent at points this year, and I saw a lot of interviews with a lot of different players saying, well, we thought we were going to kick it on at the end of the season, and it never happened. Well, you can't just be expecting everybody else to kick it on for you to kick it on. I think you got to take responsibility for yourself. They didn't do that. I mean, if they don't get Victor Cruz back, I don't really see him fitting in too many systems really well. I could be completely wrong on that, but it seems like he's more of their kind of system guy, like a Wes Welker. It's not like Wes Welker can go too many places and shine like he is. So, looking at the Giants, if they don't get all their pieces back, it's going to be tough. Hakeem Nicks, he gets injured almost every year, so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. They released Bradshaw, so they obviously, had a bunch of young guys at running back this year. But I'm kind of with you. I really... They come out of nowhere and surprise people sometimes when they shouldn't, but I really just don't see them fixing their problems this offseason, and I'm with you. I think they're going to be more of a bust next year. They were a favorite, obviously, coming in this year, being Super Bowl champions, but they were a bust this year, and I think you're right. I think they're going to come in next year and pretty much lay the same dud. The team that I think is going to be a bust, and I know the Steelers didn't make the playoffs, but I got the Steelers being a bust next year. It sounds like they're planning on blowing up that team to try to build it one more time around Ben Roethlisberger to make that one last run with him before he gets too far along in his career. But it doesn't sound like they're going to be able to get Mike Wallace back. Their defense is old. I mean, they got a lot of really old guys. It's going to be interesting to see how they fix it up, but it showed at the end of the year how old they were because they looked like they just ran out of gas. They ran out of steam.
And they had too many
injuries. Up in
some
spots. Yeah, and they got a lot of injuries, but a lot of their injuries are because they're old. And I know that Ben Roethlisberger, he's not old, and he actually, probably is a top 10 quarterback in this league, but it's hard to say a team with a good quarterback is going to be a bust, but I really think they're just, I don't know, I think they're going to have a decline year next year, maybe even for the next few years, but I think it's all going to be so that they can try to bring it back in a few years before Roethlisberger's career is over. So that's my team that I think is going to be surprisingly bad next year.
I agree with that.
Our disclaimer is that this is before the off season, so this is just kind of what,
things can change. Who knows what's going to happen?
Anything can change. Yeah, exactly. Who knows what's going to happen? And obviously, we're going to have more reports. I think we're going to try to do after the draft special, kind of talk about where teams are at that point. I think we're going to try to do maybe even like maybe a small report in between then, and then definitely training camp. Training camp, we'll definitely be making our talks and our predictions, and but
it'll be exciting. I mean, everybody loves football. I'm excited for the next year.
Everybody.
So we'll see what happens.
It was a great football season. I had fun. Obviously, I think football is kind of what kicked off Hood's Huddle, so I had fun with us doing that. And but Hood's Huddle's not going away. We're definitely gonna be doing other topics. Definitely gonna be hitting some college basketball, and we already did the NBA and we already did the NHL. And we're gonna obviously keep going with that as they progress towards the playoffs. So, it's exciting, but good football here.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. Yep. So that was our kind of Super Bowl wrap up, aka also kind of our off season lookout, and have fun. See you guys next time.
Yeah, please hit that like button on that YouTube page. Please subscribe if you enjoy it.
Do that.
Follow us on Twitter, or you see our Twitter handles up here. You can like us on Facebook at Hood's Huddle. There's a lot of big
questions.
Yeah, throw us some questions. We can answer them on the show. We might answer you right back, depending on what channel of media you take it through to us. So there's a lot of big moves coming up for Hood's Huddle. We have a lot of things in the work. Make sure you pay attention.
Ideas flowing right now.
make sure you're paying attention. There might be some free stuff coming out to people that might be supporting us.
Some Huddle gear might be coming your way.
So please like and subscribe. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back for the next one. Yeah, we'll be back for the next one. So.